Hey guys, tonight we're stepping quietly into the perfumed shadows of an ancient Aztec home. The sun has just dipped below the mountains, casting long amber streaks across the packed earth floor. Smoke from a cook fire curls lazily through the thatched roof. You sit cross-legged on a woven mat, your nose filled with a dizzying mixture of cornmeal, wood ash, and something sweeter, flowers. Not flowers in a vase. Not pressed in a book. But bundled. Steamed. Dried. Hung from rafters like garlands of quiet, natural magic. This isn't some romantic image pasted onto a tourist brochure. This is medicine. This is ritual. This is bedtime. You're watching as a woman gently crushes petals between her palms, purple blossoms, white stars, flame orange blooms. She lays them carefully beside a reed mat in a folded cloth pouch. For good dreams, she whispers, barely audible over the crackle of the fire. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far this sleepy little channel reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie back as the family finishes their meal. Everyone moves calmly. No rush. No flickering TV in the background. Just the rhythmic thump of a pestle grinding dried flowers into powder, a baby's soft yawn, and the soft buzz of nighttime insects just outside. This is not just sleep. This is preparation. The Aztecs, people of poetry, ritual, and deeply practical mysticism, took bedtime seriously. Especially the flowers. They believed certain flowers, when handled with care and offered with intention, could coax the body into softness and guide the soul through the underworld of dreams. Marigolds were placed at the threshold, not just for scent but for protection. Sempoalxicatl, the flower of 20 petals, wasn't just pretty. It was powerful. Historians still argue whether the use of flowers in Aztec sleep rituals was primarily symbolic, medicinal, or both. What's clear is that these weren't mere decorations. They were tools. Medicines. Messages whispered through the language of petals. You shift slightly on the mat, and notice a pouch beside your head. It smells like crushed pine, wet leaves, and something warm, almost peppery. Maybe is Quixicitl. Maybe a blend. The woman who prepared it isn't saying. Just for rest, she murmurs. That's enough. Every household had its own blend, passed down from mother to daughter, healer to apprentice. And each blend had a purpose, calming the nerves, cooling the blood, inviting safe dreams. Some were even chosen based on the phase of the moon or the color of a child's dreams the night before. There's no electricity here. No blue light to chase the melatonin away. Just fire, flower, and sleep. Outside, the village quiets. A dog barks once. A child giggles, then hushes. You can almost hear the petals breathing in their bundles above the door. This was how Aztecs ended their days, not with pills or screens or overworked yawns, but with blossoms, tucked in braids, slipped into robes, laid beneath reeds. And in this stillness, wrapped in scent and silence, you start to wonder, what if they were right? What if sleep doesn't begin with tiredness, but with intention? So tonight, just imagine it. You, beneath a canopy of night, with only flowers for company. The petals still. The air warm. Your breath slowing. And somewhere nearby, another family prepares their own pouch of petals, and slips into dreams just like you. You wake to the flicker of moonlight across a woven mat and the faint rustle of something being unwrapped nearby. The air smells different now, cooler, deeper, tinged with something earthy and mysterious. You roll slightly, and there, near the hearth, you see her, an elder woman sitting cross-legged, her fingers delicately arranging what looks like a bundle of pale trumpet-shaped flowers. She's humming a slow, drifting melody. You don't recognize the tune, but it makes your eyelids heavier just listening. She holds up the flower and names it softly, Talochi. This is no ordinary bedtime bouquet. Talochi, or datura, has long been used by the Aztecs not just for sleep, but for dreams. Big dreams. Deep ones. The kind that drift far beyond gentle slumber and into the realm of visions. Of messages. Of journeying. You're not here to take any, you probably wouldn't survive this, and you've still got a grocery list waiting in the real world, but you're allowed to watch. She doesn't brew it into tea. She dries the petals, places a few flakes onto burning coals, and lets the smoke rise up in delicate threads. No one inhales deeply. This is sent as suggestion, not ingestion. Historians still argue whether the Aztecs viewed Talochi primarily as a medicinal sleep aid, or a sacred hallucinogen meant only for priests and diviners. But there are accounts, fragile bits passed down in codices and oral stories, that suggest it was sometimes used in microamounts as part of nightly rituals to open the road of sleep. You lean back, the smoke swirling faintly toward the ceiling. It smells pungent. Sharp. But beneath that, something floral and strangely soothing. The woman gently fans the smoke toward a young boy curled up beside her. She touches his forehead and whispers what you assume is a blessing, then places a small floral pouch on his chest. Not marigolds this time. This one is filled with crushed talochi leaves, dried rose petals, and a bit of ground obsidian, symbolic protection, as if the sharp black mineral could cut away bad dreams. This wasn't casual bedtime prep. This was spiritual hygiene. The Aztecs believed that sleep was a form of travel. That your tonali, a part of your soul, left your body to wander while you rested. And Talochi? It was a way to guide it. The woman now turns her attention to a woven bowl of flower fragments, colors like parchment, wine, and rust. She sprinkles them over a stone and presses them gently into a paste. She'll smear this along the doorframe before bed. Not just for scent. For safety. You inhale slowly. The smoke clings to the thatch above, like a barely there dream. The boy sighs in his sleep, his fingers twitching ever so slightly. Maybe he's flying. Maybe he's listening to ancestors. Or maybe he's just dreaming of roasted maize. In another part of the city, you imagine priests using this same flower in ritual form, painting their faces with its essence, chanting through the night, trying to commune with gods or decode signs from the cosmos. But here, in this home, it's gentler. Still sacred. But soft. And even now, centuries later, you'd be surprised how often Talochi still appears in modern folk remedies. Sometimes steeped in water and placed under beds. Other times braided into hair before sleep. The rules change, but the flowers stay. You shift slightly, head growing heavy. That's the thing about this ancient bedtime wisdom, it doesn't rush you. It doesn't buzz or beep. It just lingers. Slows. Softens. So go ahead, close your eyes for a bit. Pretend the room is filled with the wisps of something older than dreams. And maybe, just maybe, let your thoughts drift like smoke, rising into the cool night, carried by the hush of a flower that once whispered sleep into the bones of empires. You sit now in the cool shadow of a temple courtyard, its stone walls etched with winding glyphs and curling vines. It's late, but the air is still thick with the perfume of crushed blossoms and ceremonial incense. Tonight isn't just about sleep, it's about honoring it. In the heart of this bustling, fragrant world stands a deity who watches over both dreams and flowers, Zakapili. His name means, flower prince, and he isn't the kind of god you imagine in a thundercloud or scowling from a mountain. He's different, joyful, radiant, strange. A god of art, music, dance, intoxication, and, yes, sleep. You watch as a young priest arranges a small offering on a stone altar, bundles of sochal blossoms, petals scattered like sunlight, and a single cup of fermented flower nectar. The priest bows, not in fear, but reverence. This is no fearsome lord. This is the patron of rest and rapture, the divine bringer of peace through beauty. The Aztecs believed flowers were a bridge, not just between people and gods, but between waking and dreaming. Zacapili embodied this bridge. By honoring him, one sought deeper rest, more vivid dreams, and the blessing of tranquility. His statues show him smiling, head tilted skyward, legs crossed like he's caught mid-lullaby. You step quietly around the courtyard. Women weave garlands of marigolds and Quetzalcoatl for their sleeping children. Men press flower paste into delicate clay discs and place them beneath reed mats, offerings not to be seen, but felt during sleep. Historians still argue whether Zacapili was truly considered a god of sleep or more broadly of pleasure and altered states. But when you're lying under the stars with flower-stuffed pillows and softly drumming chants echoing off temple stones, the difference seems unimportant. He was joy. He was bloom. He was the patron saint of drifting away without fear. Tonight is a feast day. Offerings of flowers are abundant, and sleep is sacred. A chorus begins to hum in the background, their song rising and falling like waves. You lie down on a woven mat warmed by the day's sun. A floral sachet is placed near your neck, soft and cool, made of white lilies and crushed cacao petals. The chorus sings not to the people, but for the people. Their song is meant to soften the walls between this world and the one you visit in dreams. Somewhere nearby, a child whispers a nighttime prayer to Zacapili. It's just 3 words, let me bloom. And that's what sleep was to the Aztecs, not escape, not absence, but blossoming. A time to renew. To be fragrant, even while motionless. To bloom inside your mind. You glance up and see a mural near the ceiling, Zacapili dancing on a carpet of flowers, a spiral of petals flowing behind him like a trail of sleep. His feet don't touch the ground. His eyes are closed. He is dreaming, even while divine. The people here don't fear sleep. They lean into it. They craft it. They honor it with every petal, every chant, every breath of perfumed wind. You can almost feel the pollen settling on your skin like glittery dusk. And as the music fades, the temple stones grow cool, and the blossoms begin to wilt ever so gently in the nighttime air, you understand what this moment is, not just rest, but ritual. Not just comfort, but connection. So close your eyes for a little while, and imagine a god who smiles in his sleep. One who sends you dreams wrapped in color. One who watches over your rest, not with judgment, but with petals. You shift gently and find yourself now in a quiet household nestled deep within the stone heart of Tenochtitlan. The city is dim, the torches have burned low, and the streets outside carry only the faint sound of wind and distant reed flutes. But inside this home, there's still movement, delicate, slow, almost reverent. You're lying beside a bed unlike any you've known. Not a towering mattress or soft spring coils, just a humble frame, woven from reeds and palm fibers, covered in smooth cotton sheets, and what's this? Pillows. But not filled with feathers. These are stuffed with stems and petals. A woman adjusts one beneath your head, and the scent hits you like a lullaby, warm, floral, slightly sweet, slightly green. This isn't potpourri. It's purpose. She presses the pillow flat and names the plants, Sempoalxicatl, the 20-petaled marigold, Quetzalcoatl, the obsidian flower, and Tlacoxicatl, the reddish night bloom said to ease breathing. Each one dried, crushed, and sewn into soft linen sacks. Not for display, for dreaming. This was no elite ritual. Ordinary people, farmers, potters, fishers, prepared floral pillows with as much care as they did their food. Sleep wasn't downtime, it was a return to balance. And the pillows? They were balance incarnate. Historians still argue whether these pillows offered any measurable medicinal benefit or simply worked as a kind of perfumed placebo. But anyone who's ever sighed happily into a sun-warmed cotton pillow knows, scent has power. You inhale again. The marigold stands out, sharp, citrusy, slightly bitter. Not the kind of smell you associate with relaxation. But to the Aztecs, Sempoalxicatl wasn't about softness. It was a guardian. Its scent signaled protection, especially from bad spirits who slipped through dreams. The Azquixicatl is subtler, dark and earthy, like damp stone after rain. Said to be connected to Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror god, it was thought to help with memory during dreams. People believed it sharpened the visions, made them clearer, more useful. As for Tlacoxicatl, its pale red color fades to amber in the pillow light. A plant long considered sacred, some believed it encouraged the kind of dreams where ancestors visited, not in visions, but in feelings. A warmth. A whisper. The sensation that someone long gone had stopped by to say hello. You shift again, and the pillow rustles softly, like leaves dancing against fabric. It's oddly alive, these petals haven't bloomed in weeks, yet here they are, still giving off their final notes. Another woman enters with a small bowl of flower paste, white with flecks of yellow and green. She gently smears it across the brow of a sleeping child nearby. The scent is different again, lighter, fainter, like dew caught on linen. It's a cooling blend, used when fever stalked the nights. The Aztecs believed warmth could trap restlessness in the blood. So they used flowers like Tecamaxicatl, the trumpet flower, believed to cool the body and the spirit. Not all flowers were sedatives, some were equalizers. And these beds, with their cradled pillows of dried stems and sleep-soaked blossoms, were more than places to lie. They were chambers of transformation. Where scent guided the soul. Where flowers did more than bloom, they anchored you. You blink slowly, your head sinking deeper into the pillow. It's not about softness. It's about stillness. The knowledge that someone, somewhere, thought carefully about what should be beneath your head while you dream. So breathe in again. Let the weight of the petals press gently against your senses. They're old. They've seen more dreams than you can count. And tonight, they're holding yours too. You stir now in a different corner of the same Aztec home, this time shadowing someone who moves with quiet precision, an older man with lines carved deep into his brow and hands stained the color of bark. He is a Ticitl, a healer, and tonight, his patient isn't sick. Just restless. And for that, he reaches not for charms or chants, but for flowers. You sit by his woven basket as he carefully selects dried petals from a pouch, Quetzalcoatzicatl, or serpent hair flower, used for clearing wind in the heart. Then Quetzalcoatzicatl, bright and red like a bird's crest, known to reduce inner heat. And finally, Hualoxicatl, the sleepberry flower, bitter but dependable. He grinds the blend with practiced rhythm. Thump, thump, scratch. It's not just about crushing petals, it's about awakening them. He sprinkles a bit of the mix into warm water, swirls it with a sliver of agave, and sets it aside to steep. Meanwhile, he's already lighting a rolled bundle of dried flower petals and bark, held together by thin white thread. No tobacco. Just flowers. The smoke curls slowly, lazily, like it has nowhere in particular to go. He waves it over the mat, the pillow, the resting boy's face. For the nerves, he mutters. You inhale gently and are surprised. It's smoky, yes, but also familiar. Like crushed grass after rain. A little sweet, a little musky. Comforting in a way you didn't expect. Sleep isn't being forced here. It's being invited. He applies a compress next, cloth soaked in that warm floral blend, folded and placed across the forehead. The boy sighs, breath deepening. The effect is subtle but clear. Historians still argue whether these remedies were medicinal or symbolic. Modern botanists have confirmed mild sedative properties in several Aztec flowers, but the Ticitl wasn't measuring chemicals, he was listening to bodies. You watch as he begins humming softly, part lullaby, part prayer. He speaks to the tonality, the soul energy that floats at the top of the head. His goal isn't to knock the boy out. It's to guide that energy inward. To say, it's safe now. You can rest. You glance around his workspace. Shelves lined with bundles of hanging blossoms. Small gourds filled with powdered petals. Hollowed bone spoons. A single obsidian mirror for checking the face of sleep. No clocks. No schedules. Just rhythms. The healer points to a string of blue flowers hung near the door, Matlauksekittel. Protection, he says. From what dreams carry in. It wasn't just about making you sleep, it was about keeping you safe while you did. The Aztecs believed dreams weren't innocent, they were porous. That while you slept, spirits, both ancestral and mischievous, might slip in. So the healer used scent, smoke, touch, and song not only to induce slumber, but to build a gentle barrier. You sit quietly now as the boy finally slips under. One last breath through parted lips. One hand twitching once, then still. The Tissittle nods. The work is done. Not flashy. Not loud. But precise. Patient. There's something deeply human here. A recognition that sleep isn't automatic. It needs tending. Like a fire. Or a garden. And as you sit beside the flower paste, the faint smoke still spiraling toward the thatch roof, you can't help but feel the old man's calm seep into your own breath. Everything here is done with care. Even dreaming. So go ahead. Rest your head. The compress is warm, the smoke is light, and somewhere nearby, someone is still humming for you. You awaken, or maybe just drift deeper, into a scene lit only by the pale flicker of firelight and the shimmer of moonbeams on polished stone. You're outside now, seated beneath a wide awning of woven palm leaves, as a hush settles across the courtyard. Something is about to begin. Around you, families gather, grandparents with quiet eyes, children blinking sleepily, mothers holding flower bundles like tiny offerings. There is no loud call to attention, no horn or bell. Just silence. Anticipation. And the faintest rustle of marigold petals in the night air. Tonight is for spirits. Not the drinking kind. The Aztecs believed that during sleep, the soul wandered beyond the body, and that sometimes, other souls wandered in. Ancestors, protectors, guides. But also things less welcome. Night demons. Dream thieves. The murky leftovers of grief or illness. To ward them off, they used flowers. You sit back on a woven mat, watching as women tie marigold garlands into rings, necklaces, bracelets, even anklets for sleeping children. The flower of the dead, yes, but also the flower of safekeeping. Sempoalxicatl, with its sharp scent and blazing gold color, was thought to glow even in the unseen world. Each child is gently adorned. A ring of petals around the head. One tucked into a small pouch under the pillow. One placed carefully atop the chest, like a light armor of bloom. Historians still argue whether these garlands were spiritual tools or simply cultural comforts. But to the families gathered here, it's not a question of belief, it's just what you do. The flower keeps bad dreams out. It keeps the soul tethered. It lets you sleep without fear. You turn your head as a mother lights a thin cone of copal resin, the smoke curling into the shape of a question mark. She waves it over her son's garlanded body. He doesn't move. Already half asleep, protected. Cradled in scent and ritual. A few paces away, an elder kneels beside a stone altar, whispering to no one in particular. In his hands, a single blue flower, Xochitl matlali, a rare bloom said to attract the spirits of wise ancestors. He lays it gently into the fire. Not to banish the spirits, but to welcome the right ones. The fire crackles softly, and the smoke rises, swirling with flower ash and the breath of prayers too old to translate. A girl sits cross-legged beside you, weaving more garlands with clumsy fingers. She looks up and offers you one. For your neck, she says. So the night doesn't follow you in. You smile and slip it over your head. It's rough. Lopsided. But the scent is bright and oddly calming. You feel your heartbeat slow. You begin to notice it everywhere, flowers tucked behind ears, strung across sleeping mats, placed in the mouths of stone effigies. Not a home here is without them. Not a bed goes undecorated. This is more than beauty. It's more than fragrance. It's bedtime armor, soft and silent. You lie back again, the petals of your garland brushing your cheek. And for a moment, everything feels weightless. Like your body has become a flower too, folded gently into the earth, resting in moonlight, waiting for morning. So don't worry about what dreams might come. The petals have you covered. You open your eyes to movement, slow, hushed, and rhythmic. You're in the midst of a moonlit market, tucked into a quiet corner of Tenochtitlan that only seems to wake after the city sleeps. The stars are sharp above you, but down here, everything is softened. Lanterns glow behind bundles of herbs, soft chimes clink as traders brush past, and the scent of petals and honey lingers like a secret whispered between friends. Welcome to the Midnight Flower Market. This isn't the chaotic daytime bazaar where fish sizzle and maize piles high. No, this space exists purely for the preparation of rest. These vendors don't shout. They hum. They don't haggle. They suggest. You walk past stalls draped in fresh-cut garlands, racks of woven sachets, jars of pollen-dusted nectar. Every item here promises the same thing, sleep. One vendor catches your eye, a short man with bright eyes and a stall filled entirely with dream bundles. You move closer. He lifts one with a practiced hand, dried sempoauxicotl, isquixicotl, crushed white lilies, and something else, tiny blue seeds rattling faintly inside the bundle. This one's for vivid dreams, he murmurs. But not scary ones. You raise a brow. Is that possible? He smiles. Sometimes. Each bundle is different. Some to calm the heart. Some to release sadness. One, he says, is designed for forgetting, meant to be burned before sleep to erase a heavy memory. You wonder who buys that one. Nearby, an older woman dips strips of cloth into a boiling floral brew. She lays them out carefully, lets them dry, then folds them into neat squares. "Eye covers," she says, not looking up. "For keeping the moon out of your dreams." You pass a stall selling carved wooden pillows with hollow spaces for slipping in small pouches of flower dust or dried petals. The vendor pats one gently. "Heats with body warmth," she says. "Releases scent once your dreams begin." Historians still argue whether these markets were formal, structured parts of the Aztec economy, or more liminal, part ritual, part folk tradition. But here, surrounded by blossoms and flickering oil lamps, it doesn't matter. This isn't commerce. It's care. A young boy passes by carrying a shallow bowl filled with what looks like golden dust. A woman stops him and asks for a pinch. He hands her a folded leaf packet. "Sleep pollen," he says. "From flower tops collected only at sunset." You laugh softly. Is that true? Does it matter? You duck into a narrow passageway where musicians pluck at stringed instruments made of gourd and bone. The sound is irregular but strangely hypnotic, like listening to someone else's heartbeat. A man next to you sips something from a steaming cup. The scent, lavender and chocolate. "For night thoughts," he says. "The kind you want to keep." Some of the items here are strange, even by Aztec standards. You spot a headdress made entirely of dried flowers, designed to be worn to sleep. "Helps the brain rest in color," the maker claims. Another stall sells bracelets woven with flower stems that supposedly pulse with gentle warmth if dreams become troubling. You're not sure any of it's real. But you're not sure it isn't either. That's the spell of this place. The midnight market lives somewhere between medicine and metaphor. Where flowers don't just soothe the senses, they negotiate with sleep itself. You find a quiet corner, lay your head on a folded shawl, and inhale deeply. The scent is 1,000 years old and only just now arriving. You close your eyes. Someone nearby hums. Someone else laughs softly in their dreams. And the market continues, sleepless in its mission to help you sleep. You stir again, this time to the gentle splash of water and the distant cadence of song. The world has softened further, and you realize now, you're in a bathhouse. But not the kind with marble columns and polished tiles. This one is older, quieter. An Aztec temazcal, a steam lodge built with volcanic stone, warmed by fire, perfumed with flowers. It's night, and the bathhouse is lit by flame light and moonbeam, its domed ceiling low and comforting, like a warm earthen shell. Steam rolls over your arms like silk. You sit in a shallow basin, shoulder deep in floral water, and everything smells like crushed petals and ancient earth. The woman beside you, wrapped in a cloth dyed with marigold and blue cochineal, dips a gourd cup into the bath. She pours warm water over your chest. For breath, she says gently. You nod, too relaxed to question what that means. Tonight's bath is infused with isquixicitl, marigold, and dried lime flower. It isn't just about hygiene. This is preparation. Bathing before sleep is sacred. Not to clean the body, but to loosen the soul. To let it slip away more easily into dreams. Nearby, two women hum a lullaby, not in harmony, but in rhythm. A rolling melody, wordless in parts, that rises and falls like waves. One verse names flowers. Another describes the night sky. The final lines simply repeat the word for sleep, sueya, sueya, sueya. The Aztecs believed in the power of song to shape sleep. That melody could guide the tonali, your soul's breath, out of the body safely, and back in by dawn. The wrong song could confuse it. The right one could comfort it home. Historians still argue whether these floral baths and lullabies were widespread or reserved for the priestly class. But you suspect, based on the way this elder hums without thinking, it was more common than records suggest. After the bath, you're led to a woven mat beside the fire. Your skin smells like steamed flowers. A fresh bundle of dried petals is tucked near your neck. The same woman who bathed you now rubs a thick paste of ground blossoms and water across your feet. The flowers help your dreams find their way out, she murmurs. Children in a nearby corner are being sung to as they're dried off. Not one protest. Not one squirm. Just blinking eyes, fluttering lids, and heads slowly slumping to mats. A boy clutches a plush bundle of sempoalxicitl. His sister tucks a lily blossom into the fold of her blanket. And you lie back, every limb softened, every breath slowed, realizing sleep is no longer something to fall into. It's something to be led into. One step at a time. Song by song. Petal by petal. Outside, the wind shifts. A woman opens the door just a crack to let in cooler air. It smells like stone, dew, and night flowers blooming wild along the edges of a canal. You can't remember the last time sleep felt so earned. So let the water dry on your skin. Let the flower oils cling to your breath. Let the music echo somewhere far behind your ribs. Because tonight, you're not just drifting off. You're being sung into the garden of sleep itself. You awaken now beneath a woven canopy where soft wind presses through open lattice walls, rustling the hanging flower bundles overhead. The sky outside is dark velvet, scattered with stars, but in here, everything feels alive with color. Not in the way we think of color today, in swatches and digital codes, but in energy. In mood. In dreams. Tonight, you're learning something the Aztecs believed deeply, that the color of a flower could shape your sleep. You sit cross-legged with an elder woman who gently spreads out her collection of dried blooms. She doesn't group them by name or fragrance, but by hue, yellows in one bundle, reds in another, pale blues like fragments of sky pressed into petal form. She touches each one with the care of someone rearranging memories. Red. Too much heat, she mutters, setting it aside. Only for sleep after sorrow. Yellow marigold. Balance. clears the path. Blue. She smiles. Soft dreams. The kind that let you float. The Aztecs didn't just admire flowers, they classified their meanings with precision. They saw colors as more than visual, they were medicinal, emotional, spiritual. And when it came to sleep, choosing the right petal wasn't a preference. It was protection. Historians still argue whether these color associations were standardized across regions or developed within family traditions. But the stories remain remarkably consistent: red stimulated the body, yellow harmonized it, and blue guided the soul. You watch now as the woman prepares a sachet for a young girl struggling with bad dreams. She selects only the softest blue petals, matlal and xochitl, believed to be sacred to water spirits, and binds them in white cotton. She adds one yellow sempoalxicitl petal to the center. For balance, she says. So the dreams don't float away too far. There's something deeply intuitive about it. You don't need a scientific explanation to know that color affects mood. The Aztecs simply took that understanding further, using it not just for beauty, but for bedtime. Elsewhere in the home, a man prepares his own pouch. He includes red as quixicitl. Today was hard, and his chest feels heavy. Red cools it down, he explains, if you know the right blend. His sleep, he hopes, will not be restful exactly, but releasing. As the matriarch tucks the blue sachet beside the child's sleeping face, she whispers a lullaby. Not a full song, just a few notes. Soft and bright as sky. You sit quietly, noticing the harmony, blue petals, blue dreams, a blue-toned hum. And what about you? The elder motions for you to choose your color. You hesitate, then reach for something you hadn't noticed before, a pale flower, almost silver in the moonlight. She nods. White dreams, she says. Empty of noise. Clear like wind. She crushes it gently and slips it into a folded cloth. Place it by your heart, she adds. So it remembers what to beat for. You lie down again, petal sachet pressed gently to your chest, surrounded by the shifting hues of others' sleep rituals. Color not as decoration, but as dialogue, with the body, with the night, with whatever waits behind the eyes when you close them. So tonight, as your breath slows and your limbs grow heavy, let color carry you. Not with brightness, but with balance. Let your dreams be blue enough to float. Yellow enough to heal. And just white enough to leave the world behind for a little while. You blink, and now you're in a smaller, gentler space, a nursery tucked within the folds of an Aztec home. The walls are soft adobe, rounded and smooth, glowing faintly from the reflection of a single flame. But the first thing you notice isn't the light. It's the smell, faint, powdery sweetness from crushed petals mingled with the warmth of sleeping breath. Tonight, you're learning how the Aztecs tucked their children into sleep. And once again, the answer is flowers. You crouch beside a woven hammock, slung low and swaying gently. Inside lies a swaddled infant, her tiny body cradled in cotton, her hands twitching softly in dream. But this isn't just any hammock, it's been strung with garlands. Carefully. Lovingly. A ring of dried yellow blossoms forms a loop around her head, while blue and white petals have been tucked into the threads near her feet. Anchors, the mother whispers as she adjusts a tiny flower pouch sewn into the cloth near the baby's chest. So her spirit doesn't wander too far. The Aztecs believed that young children were especially vulnerable in sleep, that their souls, new and soft, could float too easily into the dream world and forget the way back. Flowers weren't just decoration. They were safeguards. Tethers. Petaled maps back home. Historians still argue whether these practices were widespread or reserved for noble families, but in this home, and the ones like it, the care is universal. Sleep, after all, is not an indulgence, it's a sacred transition. And for children, it's treated with even greater delicacy. You peek into another hammock where twin boys sleep side by side, wrapped in matching blue cloths. Their heads rest on tiny reed pillows, stuffed not with feathers, but with petals, is Quixoquitl for protection, Tlacoxoquitl to ease breathing, and just a hint of crushed basil leaves, said to ward off nightmares. You spot a small rattle tucked beneath the mat, filled not with seeds, but with dried flower buds. For sound dreams, the father murmurs. And for waking without fright. The lullabies here are sung in Nahuatl, soft, spiraling, full of metaphor. One verse speaks of the moon as a flower that sleeps in the sky. Another names each petal in the garland and the dream it guards. The song is quiet enough to blend into the heartbeat of the room. And these cradles? They swing gently with each breath, the garlands rustling like wind through leaves. The motion isn't random, it mimics the rocking of the womb. The return to origin. The full circle of safety. You rest a hand on one garlanded strand. The petals feel cool and dry, but they still give off scent. Not overwhelming. Just enough to guide a child down and into the garden of sleep. Even older children aren't left out. You pass a mat where a 5-year-old sleeps with a bracelet of tightly wound red and yellow petals around his wrist. The family says he talks in his sleep, sometimes too much. The flowers help close the mouth of the dreaming voice, so he can rest without losing energy. It's all done with such softness, such routine. There's no alarm, no pleading for bedtime. Just preparation. As natural as washing your face or lighting a fire. And even now, in small pockets of the world, similar rituals remain. A flower under the pillow. A lullaby handed down from a grandmother. A belief, whether spoken or not, that sleep is something we have to guide, not demand. You lie back now near the hammocks, letting the hush of the room soak into your bones. Every baby here sleeps with flowers. Not as ornament, but as guardians. So if your own dreams ever feel restless, consider this: maybe you, too, need a garland. Maybe you never stopped needing one. Maybe sleep still asks to be invited with petals. You find yourself now in the hushed corridors of an Aztec palace, where sleep is not merely an act of rest, but a display of status, ceremony, and floral indulgence beyond anything you've seen so far. Even silence here feels more luxurious. You walk past thick stone columns and floor mats woven so tightly they feel like fabric, all leading into a chamber where the air itself seems perfumed. Welcome to the royal slumber of the Aztec elite. Inside, the sleeping space is dim, but not dark. Torches burn low, their smoke winding gently around hanging garlands strung from beam to beam. These aren't your average flower bundles. These are hand-selected blooms sourced from the royal gardens, flowers that have never touched the earth, picked at twilight, steeped in dew, and dried in shade. You pass a canopy bed draped in dyed cotton netting. At the corners, small sachets of Tlacoxoquitl, a rich, dark flower used not only for scent but to soften the blood. The idea? That even a noble's dreams should flow gently. Servants move quietly, placing warm stones wrapped in flower-drenched cloth beneath the bedding to keep it from cooling too quickly. One is infused with crushed magnolia petals, another with huitzilin, or hummingbird flower, believed to enhance clarity in dreams. Not that the nobles need clarity. They just want pleasure. You hear faint music. A soft flute, a heartbeat like drum. Not to entertain, but to regulate the rhythm of breath as sleep sets in. One noblewoman lies already in bed, a light veil across her face, a ring of marigold and orchid blooms on her chest. She's not asleep yet, but the flowers are already at work, warming her lungs, calming her pulse. A servant gently fans her with a palm frond spritzed in rosewater and flower oil. For keeping the night from pressing too hard, she says. And this isn't just excess, it's belief. That royalty must not only be guarded in waking life, but in dreams too. The Aztecs believed that nobles could receive divine messages while sleeping. Visions that guided decisions, omens wrapped in imagery. Which meant their dreams had to be perfect. Historians still argue whether these palatial sleep rites were symbolic shows of power or sincere spiritual practice. Maybe both. But they were detailed. Precise. Opulent in their own sleepy way. You're led to another chamber, a smaller one, but no less elegant. This one belongs to a poet-priest, someone who advises the court through metaphors and dream interpretation. His room is filled with clay bowls of crushed petals, scrolls of dream symbols, and a reed mat that smells of vanilla flower and sweetgrass. He sleeps with a flower crown around his head. Not for show, but for focus. So the dreams find the right doorway, a servant explains. And do not get lost in the dark. Even the pillows here are different. Stuffed with petal lace down, yes, but also embroidered with glyphs of dream symbols, footprints for travel, eyes for truth, spirals for the unknowable. Before sleep, the noble is offered a single flower to smell, a ritual known as the final scent. It's meant to set the tone of the night. Tonight, it's Cozamolatl, the rainbow flower. Bright, unusual, and said to invite dreams of insight. You lie back now on a smaller guest mat, still floral, still perfumed, and watch as the torchlight flickers. The petals above sway gently. The air feels thinner, cooler, like it's been cleansed by fragrance alone. This is a place where even the gods would pause to dream. So close your eyes, noble dreamer. Tonight, you sleep as royalty once did, not just wrapped in warmth, but in meaning. Let the petals guide your visions. Let the silence hum with memory. Let your breath move like perfume drifting through a sacred hall. You open your eyes and the tone shifts. It's darker here, not just night dark, but deep dark, like the kind that pools in corners and clings to dreams. You're no longer surrounded by warm flower beds or hushed lullabies. Tonight, you've stumbled into the realm of night troubles, what the Aztecs called tlacatecalitl, shadow beings, whisperers, or what we might nervously call bad vibes that sneak into your sleep. Even in the most flower-scented homes, not every night was easy. Not every dream was gentle. So the Aztecs had rituals for those, too, for when rest became restless. You're in a home where a child stirs uneasily. She turns in her sleep, mumbling, kicking off her blanket. Her mother watches from the shadows, clutching a garland, this one made of red-tinted petals, darker than you've seen before. Too much wine in her blood, she says quietly. The night spirits are whispering again. Wind in the blood wasn't literal. It was a phrase, a way of describing nerves, anxiety, inner agitation. The kind of thing that turns dreams sharp, that pulls your tonality, your vital soul heat, too far from the body. The solution? You guessed it, flowers. But these weren't the soft, pale blossoms from earlier. No, the Aztecs had battle flowers. Petals for protection. Pouches that didn't just invite dreams, they defended against the ones that came uninvited. The mother reaches for Itzikitl, obsidian flower, dark, strong, often used in nighttime rituals. Crushed into powder, mixed with maize flour and warmed in clay, she smears it along her daughter's hairline and whispers a protection chant. It's less lullaby, more shield spell. Historians still argue whether these night demons were taken as literal beings or metaphors for mental unrest. But to the people living this moment, the line doesn't matter. The child's eyes flutter. The tension leaves her arms. The flowers are working. You glance around and see other tools, a tiny sachet of bitter-scented petals tied to the bedpost, a string of dried chilies and crushed rose hung like a talisman above the door, and beside the pillow, a clay figure with a floral crown and a fierce carved grin, meant to scare the dark away. Even grown-ups needed help sometimes. One man sleeps with his hands clenched tight. His wife lays a flower-wrapped stone on his chest. To press down the heaviness, she says. The petals are damp with dew and smell faintly of mint and something sharp. If the dream is too strong, this will remind him where his body is. You realize now how layered their view of sleep was. It wasn't just a passive state. It was a journey. One you had to protect. Guard. Respect. Like a house with a very important guest, you And these enemies of rest, as they called them, didn't just live in the mind. They were wind, illness, grief, even stray energies that entered on someone else's breath. So you used what the earth gave you, petals, roots, scent, to fight back. Gently. Beautifully. You take a flower from the wall. It's brittle and pale red. The kind used for memory shielding. You hold it close and lie back again, the darkness still deep, but no longer menacing. A child nearby exhales slowly, finally calm. The house returns to stillness. The petals have done their work. So if you, too, ever find yourself tangled in a dream you didn't ask for, remember, not every flower is for beauty. Some are for bravery. And sleep, as the Aztecs knew, is best entered with allies. You open your eyes to a different kind of tension. The warmth of flowers is still in the air, but it's no longer gently cradling you. It's being challenged. The walls are thicker now, made of rougher stone, and the voices you hear don't speak Nahuatl. They speak Castilian Spanish, quick, sharp, foreign. You've landed in the 16th century, just as the Spanish conquistadors have begun their systematic unraveling of Aztec life. And among the many things they seek to dismantle, temples, calendars, codices, they also eye the flowers. Not because they hate beauty, but because they don't trust it. These fragrant rituals, these flower-stuffed pillows and petal-filled baths, they seem superstitious. Heathen. Pagan. So they begin to reinterpret. You're in a home where the flowers have been hidden. Bundles once proudly hung in doorways now dry quietly in pottery jars beneath the floor. A grandmother crumbles a quixicatl into a bowl, just as she always has, but no longer names it aloud. It's just for scent, she tells the curious friar passing through. Just a habit. Nothing more. Outside, processions carry statues of the Virgin Mary draped in garlands of marigolds, flowers once dedicated to Zacapili and the dead. Now, those same petals are called offerings of penitentia, not power. The overlap is not lost on anyone. Historians still argue whether this period was one of total rupture or slow blending. The truth is, both happened. Some rituals were erased, yes, but others were smuggled inside new ones. Sleep sachets still existed. They just changed their language. Dream songs now mention saints instead of gods. Flower baths remained, but were for the nerves, not the spirit. You visit a midwife who prepares a bundle for a sleepless child. She uses sempoalxicatl, just as before, but tucks a tiny wooden cross into the cloth. Now the flower is blessed, she says, smiling slightly. The cross may be new, but the flower, the meaning, the intention, is unchanged. Even in the newly built churches, you notice flower garlands twisted around altars. Priests might call them decorative. But to the people who made them, they are something deeper. Memory. Resistance. Continuity in scent form. In one home, a mother teaches her daughter to dry petals at dusk. Don't tell the priest, she whispers. But these are the ones your grandmother used. They work better. They both giggle, knowing full well that beneath the blanket of forced faith, the old garden still blooms. You wander into a monastery courtyard, and you're surprised to see a friar tending a garden of native Aztec flowers. For healing, he explains. And for sleep. His Spanish is thick, but his hands move just like the Ticitls did. He knows. Or perhaps, he's learned. There is loss here, yes. So many names, chants, meanings, scattered, stolen, rewritten. But the flowers? They survive. Because they are quiet. Because they are adaptable. Because you can't burn a fragrance. So the rituals move underground, into kitchens and corners and dusk-lit bedrooms. Flower pillows are made. Baths are drawn. Songs are sung in soft tones. The names change. The power doesn't. And so, under new rule, amid candles and crucifixes, the dream bundles still make their way beneath pillows. The petals still rustle against cotton. And children still fall asleep with the breath of flowers in their hair. Because sleep can't be conquered. Not fully. And the Aztecs, clever, poetic, flower-carrying people, knew that sometimes the best way to preserve something is to whisper it. You stir once more, but this time the walls are newer, brighter, thinner. The scent in the air isn't as concentrated, but it's still there, lingering faintly behind the detergent and cracked tile. You're in a small home on the outskirts of a modern Mexican town. There's a ceiling fan ticking gently overhead, and through the open window, you hear crickets chirping under the hum of a street lamp. And in the corner of the room, a grandmother, bent over a basin, drying flower petals by hand. She hums as she works, no grand ritual, no ceremony. Just quiet repetition. The petals are from her garden, marigold, basil flower, a little lemon verbena. Not because they're rare, but because they grow. Because they're still trusted. Because, after all this time, they still help people sleep. This is the continuation you didn't know you were waiting for. She wraps the petals in gauze, ties them with thread, and tucks the little pouch beneath her granddaughter's pillow. So your heart doesn't run away in the night, she says, smiling. The girl nods as if it's the most obvious thing in the world. It kind of is. You move into the kitchen where jars of dried flowers sit beside instant coffee and baby aspirin. Each one has a label, not in Latin or Nahuatl, but in looping, careful Spanish, para los nervios, para la calma, para los sueños bonitos. For nerves. For calm. For beautiful dreams. The grandmother still calls some of the flowers by their old names. Others have changed. But the intention hasn't. These are descendants of the Aztec flower traditions, less grand, maybe, but no less real. Historians still argue whether modern folk practices are authentically Aztec or simply local customs that absorbed many influences. But you can feel it in this room, the thread hasn't broken. It's just been rewoven. In another home, you see a man boiling té de azahar, orange blossom tea. He learned it from his grandfather, who used to steep it before bedtime and add a whisper of honey. It slows everything down, he says. Even thoughts. You smile. Because isn't that what this has all been about? Slowing things down. Calming the body, guiding the mind, inviting the soul to rest. You walk through a marketplace where vendors still sell flower bundles, dried, powdered, fresh. Some are bundled in clear plastic, some in brown paper. Some come with prayers tucked in. Others just with quiet instructions, place near your pillow, drink at sunset, don't forget to breathe deeply. And then there are the healers, the modern-day curandras, who blend these flowers with Catholic imagery and old, inherited wisdom. They bless floral water with a cross, then recite lines passed down for centuries in whispers. May this flower bring you peace. May it hold your dreams until morning. You realize the flowers have survived not through defiance, but through intimacy. By moving from temple to household. From empire to garden. From myth to daily habit. So if you thought this was all ancient history, sealed in museums and textbooks, think again. The petals are still being crushed, steeped, and tucked beneath blankets in real bedrooms. Maybe even yours. You lie down once more, the fan clicking overhead, and inhale. A hint of lemon balm, a trace of marigold. Someone still believes in this. And because they do, the flowers remember. They remember rituals. Gods. Night demons. Colonization. Children with garlanded cradles. Poets in perfumed beds. And now, you. So close your eyes. You are one breath away from an old tradition that never truly ended. One dream away from a garden that still blooms, even if no one says the names out loud anymore. Let the petals guide you. They always have. You lie still now beneath the hush of it all. The noise of the marketplace has faded. The chants have quieted. The torches have burned low. And yet, something remains, something soft, steady, older than memory. A petal pressed between time and breath. You're back under a sky like deep velvet, far from the palace, far from the bathhouses and shadowy alleys. Just you, a woven mat, and the stars above. The flowers aren't grand tonight. No garlands. No pouches. Just a few loose blossoms scattered near your head. Freshly picked. Whispering scent. You've been on quite the journey, haven't you? You've watched healers tend to sleepless children. You've seen nobles honored with embroidered floral sleep chambers. You've wandered markets of midnight remedies, heard lullabies twined with old gods and new saints. And through it all, one thing has never left your side, the flower. Sometimes crushed into smoke. Sometimes pressed into pillows. Sometimes just hanging in the air, subtle but present. Always holding your breath. Always holding your dreams. And now, in this last moment, you begin to understand something deeper. The Aztecs didn't use flowers for sleep because they were naive. They didn't think petals were magic wands. No, they knew what we often forget, that the human body craves rhythm, that the mind listens to scent, and that sleep is not a switch, but a path. And flowers? Flowers lined that path. Historians still argue whether these rituals worked, but they forget the question that matters more: did they help? And the answer, whispered from garden to cradle to memory, is yes. Because sleep isn't just about closing your eyes. It's about being invited. It's about safety. Scent. Sound. Ritual. Intention. A grandmother tucking a sachet under her granddaughter's pillow. A mother weaving marigolds into a hammock. A poet priest pressing petals beneath his bed. And now you, curled under a quiet hum, your breath soft, your thoughts lighter than they've been in hours. You don't need a temple. Or a chant. Or a royal mattress. Just a moment of stillness. Just a flower. So lie back. Let your limbs loosen. Let your thoughts flutter like blossoms on wind. Let this tradition, this whisper from the past, cradle you tonight. Because the petals haven't forgotten you. They never do. Now, as everything slows, slower still, you find yourself resting between worlds. The past, with its fragrant ceremonies and songs you couldn't quite translate, and the present, quiet and warm, waiting only for your breath to deepen. Let your body grow heavy, like blossoms after rain. Let your breath soften, your shoulders release, and your jaw loosen like a string of petals falling to earth. You're safe. The night holds no sharp edges here. The flowers have done their work. The wind has settled. The dream path has been laid, soft, scented, ancient. You don't need to remember all the names, or the colors, or the prayers. Just know that someone, somewhere, once crushed these same petals between their fingers, and offered them to the dark not as resistance, but as trust. And you, tired, kind, curious you, are now part of that lineage. A flower sleeps be. And so will. No rush. No effort. On. ONL. Only TH. Let go. Let go. Let go.